It is October 22nd, 2017. I might have lost my place in time at that moment. Just for a moment, I'm back. So I moved through, or am moving through, I moved through a very significant wound that I had been living out in my life, and I had been oblivious to. So this happens a lot in my healing journey, where I'll become awakened, that's why it's called an awakening, to something I've been doing that wasn't beneficial. So I've deconstructed my own coping mechanisms this way, and so I found another one that I was oblivious to, and it was big, and so I wanted to talk about it. Okay, so basically the wound resulted in a loop of me always being hypervigilant to analyze a situation for its for the resolution from its potential of hurting me. So what on earth made me need to analyze even other people's wounds to want to alleviate their suffering? After my analysis, I wanted to share it in order to alleviate their suffering, because I was desperate not to feel hurt by their suffering. So, at some point, I must have been traumatized by somebody else's suffering, perhaps, and put myself on a mission to not let that happen anymore, I guess. So anyway, this thing that I had been doing was basically analyzing somebody else's situation who was presenting information to me about their situation. Maybe they were just casually gossiping, but I go into the deeper levels of the healing that could come out of it, and I talk about that. And apparently, well, I knew it was rubbing some people the wrong way. It was not well received, but I didn't understand why, and I didn't know what else I could possibly do, because I felt so like that was me, because I felt compelled to do that. It was not something I ever thought of not doing. It was like I felt like that was what I had to do. I didn't ever question why I thought I had to do it either, until last night. So about like 4 days ago, my son expressed that I was like a know-it-all. And he was kind of like doing it in an accusatory manner. He wasn't being nice about saying you're kind of coming off as a know-it-all or anything like that. He was just like throwing it out there to me amongst many other digs. So I was already closed off to hearing anything that he had to say, because it felt like an assault overall. So I didn't hear it when he said it. But the reason I'm adding that in is because I feel like this wound was trying to get my attention. So this is why it was reflecting off of him letting me know, hey, you're rubbing me wrong. Like, I feel something here that's doesn't feel great. It feels like you think you know more than me about something. But so if I know that people are receiving me that way, why can't I stop doing it? Or why wouldn't I have even let myself question why I couldn't stop doing it? It was like this whole coping mechanism had constructed itself in my psyche, unbeknownst to me, and operating on this system where it wouldn't even let me see that as an option. It would never let me think about doing that. It was acting on this survival instinct type need to play this out. It was really intense. So, and then, the next day, it was my mom. I was talking to my mom. She's very receptive to a lot that I say. because we've kind of been growing and learning through healing wounds and things and doing things different. And so, but I was talking, and then I noticed energetically that I had lost her. She didn't outwardly say anything, but I could just tell that she was like, she just closed off from what our exchange. And I didn't know why, and I didn't know what I could do, and I just thought, oh, and I just moved along. Next day, I am with my significant other, and I'm analyzing as I do, and I'm on this like, I have this want to be in a very conscious in my relationship, so I want to analyze where there are moments that I can of tension, because those are always indications of a place that I can heal, and that's really what I'm trying to do, is really heal, really not have to be a slave to that discomfort and all. But there are a lot of ways to go at this, and this is just one of the angles that I've been going at it. So anyway, he expresses to me that if I could just lay off the analyzing, he has had enough. And I can tell, I've rubbed him the wrong way, but I don't know why. But I'm glad that he's telling me how he feels about it. And I take that in, and I'm like, he said it just and I said, oh, and that makes me kind of sad, I said. I was expressing how I felt. And then he said, oh, well, it's just that it gets a little old after a while. And I was like, oh. And so I started thinking about it. Does it get a little old for me? Never gets a little old for me. Nope. And it makes me sad to think I can't do it. And here he's expressed to me that he doesn't want to talk like that right now. That he just wants to be a little lighter. And I can't stop myself from wanting to talk and analyze things and tell my analysis. I can't even stop myself, even though I know this person that I love needs a minute to himself without my verbal assault. So I started to go, whoa, wait a minute. And then I just realized that if it was rubbing him the wrong way, it was a wound in me. I was compelled to do it. It rubbed him the wrong way because it was a wound. And I was just being hypervigilant about trying to make sure that I wasn't going to be hurt. And this included feeling hurt by virtue of witnessing somebody else's suffering. Which is a silly thing, because of course it doesn't do any good. And then it dawned on me all the energy that I had spent constantly trying to analyze and alleviate my own and other people's suffering. An unreal amount of energy. I felt the pressure of it just go when I realized it. And then I was just having a release of crying, and then I just realized I don't have to do that anymore. It felt very freeing, and I felt, I realized also that it was him saying it in a very matter of fact and calm way. He even apologized for snapping it out when he said it. We've got a very soft mutual respect. We are growing and learning through these interactions. So it was all very perfect, but it was him saying it to me and me receiving it and then allowing it to unravel in my consciousness, realizing, asking the right questions, and being ready to see that part of myself. So, I don't want to rub people. I'm pretty lucky that the people that I rubbed wrong so long still spend time with me. But my mom described, because I told my mom this after, and my mom said, yeah, it's kind of like, all right, I've had enough of Julie. I mean, my mom said that. And all that was a wound playing out in me. I did not know it. I did not even understand what else I could possibly do to not make people dislike me. based on what I was doing, because I felt so enslaved to it. It was like I was in a prison, because it was this whole protection mechanism of me at some earlier time when I was overwhelmed or traumatized. I made some decision that this was the way that I could handle this circumstance, which obviously wasn't a very effective one and was very exhausting. Probably taught me many lessons that I learned along the way. Built me character. I know how strong I am. I can stand on my own now. I know what it's like to not really have people behind you, because I have felt that way as a result of it. But I also have for a while known that it was a direct reflection of how I feel about myself and how I am acting towards people, you know? When we have unhealed aspect of ourselves, these are the things that show up as personality quirks, you know? So I, for a while, have been looking at how people react to me to try to find my own. And because I do want to be a better person, I do want to connect with people, but I don't come from a place of knowing how to connect with people, because I also had a wound early on that said it wasn't safe to do that. So I have constructed a bunch of things that basically make sure that I have distance from people and keep me separate, and I am unraveling them so that I can experience the connection, because I think that's, you know, good stuff, and it's also necessary for survival here. When we lose people to suicide and things like that, even illness, it's a lot of times just tied to a lack of connection. And this is what we're healing. That's okay that we are at where we're at. We have to know that we have always been doing our best. We have to have, you know, compassion and give everyone the benefit of the doubt as we move towards awakening from our patterns and programs that are no longer serving us. So that was one of mine, no longer serving me. I really do want to be guided by my heart, and I have felt very blocked off from my passion and my heart, and that's what's made it hard for me to go forward. But now I'm realizing it's because I wasn't quite ready to move forward, because these personality quirks it's time for me to focus on letting those heal. And I've been able to make it a gentle process for myself. I am surrounded by understanding people, but it wasn't always that way. I had to change my own beliefs to believe that I could be supported, and then I started allowing people in that could support me and understand, and not, you know, just think that I was an annoying weirdo. Yeah, very freeing stuff, very so basically what I did when I realized all of it, I just let it cry out, and also imagined it going into the earth for cleansing and being returned to me cleansed, all that dense energy that I could release at that time. I just let it all go. So I forgive myself for doing that, you know. I'm not going to beat myself up for being that way towards people and annoying them, because I also believe everything, you know, for a reason, and sometimes I'm the grain of sand, and sometimes I'm not meant to be liked by you, and sometimes we need that mirror. So we all have to be brave enough to do that for each other, you know, and also excuse that, because if people start seeing that it's excusable behavior and that there is a way to get out, you know, this is like building a bridge from being one way to a freedom that I think we will all enjoy and be well worth the effort. So it's the same energy we've been putting into just reliving the thing over and over, the loop. You know, because I've been doing that for years. I've been pushing away people by analyzing them to their face for years. I think my approach would have negated any helpfulness that my advice might have had a lot of times. But that was part of my whole protection mechanism that my ego structure set up to keep me from having to relive a certain trauma. But one thing I've learned through this process is I had to become willing to be in pain, and that released a lot of resistance right there. Being willing to be in pain, I mean, you cannot, it's just logical because you can't avoid pain in life. You can use pain as a teacher, and pain is temporary. Um, Suffering is optional. Suffering is just a pain that you don't think you can stop. So when you know that you can get yourself out of pain, that's when suffering ends. And these untangling of loops of energy and stepping back into the stillness and becoming aware have all helped me. Those are the things that help me get out of suffering. And I want to tell that to people, not out of the fearful place of me having to hurt for their suffering, but because knowledge is power. When 51% of the people are informed, there will be a revolution, is what I read one time. It resonated as truth. So I'm not just saying this. I learned this, I experimented with it, I've been doing it, and now I'm saying, look, guys, there is another way, and this is how it's worked for me. I'd love to hear how it works for you, and I am fascinated by how people work. So that is, the energy that I have. It's energy that I possess. It's just that I was using it in a way that was completely ineffective. So, yay for the healing process. I'll probably talk about it more and more. I thought this was a good example because it was fresh in my mind. And I don't know. I hope it's concise in the process and reason. And if it isn't, please don't hesitate to ask and make me elaborate. Thank you.